I just watched that move that I just did on the live. That was that was peak. I just hit that shit. Oh my god. Okay. Welcome. Welcome to the podcast. It's not a podcast. I'm just sort of doing my research on live so that, I have a recording of it, which I will start the recording here in a second. Um but I did a little bit of a test live last night to, just see how everything would work, but I touched on some important things while I was live on there that I'll probably put in the main video for this, right? So, um, obviously this is a working title and everything, but I'm working on a video right now called Merch Slop. That'll be the main crux of it, is just this term merch slop. Um, and I'm just basically going through YouTuber merch. I might even look at like concert merch, like musical artists and stuff. But it's mainly just on YouTuber merch because that seems to be, everybody wants to be a fucking YouTuber. Everybody wants to be a goddamn streamer nowadays. So you might as well just might as well analyze the stuff that everybody's looking at because it affects the market, So while I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to discredit, music artists or anything like that, acting like their merch hasn't done, a lot of the base building for a lot of what YouTuber merch is, it definitely is a different beast itself, right? So we're mainly just going to be analyzing YouTuber merch, um and like its effects on the market, on the merch market, I guess you could say. I specifically, you know it's my market specifically. I Okay, hold on, I'm gonna start recording now. All right, so hi, welcome back. My name is Milk. I am specifically talking about a couple of things today. um but one of those things is going to be YouTuber merch. Uh, for my own background, I went to a little bit of college specifically for printmaking, um, and I have worked in a couple of screen printing shops, some medium ones, some small ones, some really small ones. I've printed my own stuff in a shed. I have a little bit of skin in the game. I'm not the most experienced screen printer on the planet. There are people with like 30, 40 years of experience that can tell you everything there is to know about screen printing, but I have a little bit of skin in the game. I mainly just have an opinion a uh from a leftist perspective, I'll say. And just how capitalism has affected the relationship that creators, influencers and stuff have to have with merch, and thus the relationship that fans have with that merchandise, So we're going to go through and we're going to analyze a couple of where I have quite a few examples actually. We're probably going to be here a while. I got my desk in standing mode. It's probably going to stay that way for the duration. See if I can get it higher. Ugh. There we go. All right. So what's important, right, for us to first analyze here? I'll switch over to my other. We're gonna I As you can see, I have a lot of examples here. I have a lot of I got a lot of people here who I want to take a look at, and a lot of them suffer from the same symptoms that I'm going to be talking about, right? So, what am I talking about? What is merch slop? What am I trying to define this as? So, when I say merch slop, I mean a creator, an influencer comes in with a certain mindset of, oh, I need to like broaden my revenue streams, right? So the way that I make money is through streaming. Maybe I have some YouTube clips. And I on the stream last night, I actually went through Ludwig's Streamer University class because it definitely highlights like how streamers, what or even just creators and influencers, internet influencers, um, the relationship that they're supposed to have with their content, with the things that they create, you know? And it's very honestly, man, it's very bleak. You know, it's very numbers. The first thing he highlights is the relationship that you should have with revenue, right? So so it's just not a very in my opinion, not a very good relationship that you should have with your creative life, right? So, and obviously, my opinion stems from a non-capitalist perspective on the arts and on creativity in general, right? Like, I don't think people should uh, use however many years, if not lifetime, they use to develop a skill, a creative skill, and then be forced to monetize it. You know, that really it sucks the joy out of what creativity is supposed to be, you know. Obviously that's my opinion. That's my opinion on art. Um so I say that from a perspective of you shouldn't have the kind of relationship where you're doing uh content, you're being creative for profit, right? So you can make a profit that is uh a benefit to doing what you do. But mainly it's sad to see the way that people had this relationship with their content, that they're like a farm, you know. That's ultimately the point of what I'm trying to make. Every single thing that that capitalism touches is going to be turned into a factory. You know, not everything should be turned into a factory. You know, to be worked, to be as efficient, to be as constantly producing as possible. Not only constantly producing as much as possible, but constantly producing more year over year, and then thus, if you know anything about uh, dialectical materialism, is then you either cut the wages of the people making those products, like let's say you hire cameramen or you have a bunch of people that help you with production, you cut their wages, and then let's say you charge more for subscriptions, you charge more for your merch. That's the only there it gets to a point where you have factoried yourself and your brand so much that you have to start doing what you become a you become a petit bourgeois. You ultimately start doing things that capitalists would do, even though you yourself don't really own much capital at all. It's classic petit bourgeois. um, so you have to analyze this from a perspective of like, when you're watching a creator, you can sort of take their merch as a litmus test, right? So when you're watching a creator, you can sort of uh uh take what they say about their own merch, and then also then go on to their websites, you know, and stuff, and see how, how that translates basically, you know. It's a lot it's a lot more apparent once I show you the sort of elements of what I'm talking about, and I'll have to explain a little bit about the screen printing industry in general in order for you to maybe grasp some of these concepts. And that's not to say that they're complicated in any means. Screen printing is insanely simple, but not many people know about the actual details of screen printing. So I'm gonna go over those where it's pertinent, and we'll explore some of the elements and stuff today. Um, but yeah, let's get into it. So, personally, I went through and I analyzed a couple of um YouTuber merches. Let's see, Ludwig merch. So this is a bit of an advanced situation that I'll get to in a second, but so yeah, I have a lot of people I'm gonna go through. So let me break this down for you. A YouTuber enters the market, right? They've maybe been streaming for a little while. Maybe they are a YouTuber that has like a couple of pretty big videos. Um and they then get quite a few dedicated fans who 100% will spend money on merch, right? And then you have maybe a portion of your audience that will spend money on merch if it's good, like if it actually like looks good. And then you have a really big group of your audience that might might buy your merch if it's wearable outside of the fact that it's merch, right? And while YouTubers for a very long time, um, at least in like the early days, would mainly just focus on the people that 100% for sure would buy this stuff. Um, the fans that they knew for a fact would spend the money on it, would actually get it delivered to their house, not return it. And that was kind of, it was a very safe uh revenue stream. You actually honestly, you didn't have to work that hard. Early Smosh t-shirts were literally just the Smosh logo across the t-shirt. Early Fred t-shirts were the same exact way. Um uh Shout out Annoying Orange, that's, one of my sisters, love her. Um it was literally just, a picture of the Annoying Orange on a black t-shirt, and who doesn't fucking love that? Uh but they specifically focused on the people who would wear it regardless of the fact that it's not a very good piece of clothing to wear anywhere out in public. You know what I mean? Other than around other people who you knew for a fact also liked that YouTube channel, right? Um but like any market under capitalism, you the bigger people, the people who are making more money, right? The people with bigger audiences, they saw how much money that they were making with the people that they 100% for sure knew would buy that stuff. They wanted to start taking, let's in like a stock market terms, riskier bets, right? So they wanted to start reaching out into those other people that would buy it if it looks good, right? But maybe, don't care too much about the fact that they're showing off merch in public. And then also, if you're really trying to take a risk and you're really trying to, like, quote unquote, be creative, going for those people that might buy your merch only if it looks good outside of the fact that it's merch, right? So there's all of these different options that creators have for the avenues that they want to go for, like what bets they want to place upon their own audience, right? So let's say you specifically are a an art channel, right? So you maybe do have a safer bet doing some merch that is a little bit more risky in terms of like, oh, are people even gonna buy this? Um it is safer for you to do something like that. But then you have other YouTubers who are just so massive, so big that they almost feel like they need to take advantage of that market. That's where you get your Dude Perfects. That's where you get your Mr. Beasts. That's where you get your Vanosses, right? So, and we'll explore that. We'll go through that. But what's important to understand is that all of these people are just making factories of themselves. They are whoring themselves out, their own brand out, because they have made themselves a brand, and then they are using that brand to exercise and exploit every single revenue avenue that they have, right? So, and then there are the people who, let's say, try to they see all of this. They understand, even in like some sort of subconscious level, they understand that the market is kind of fucked. And that there are a lot of bad actors out there who don't really care. They just see it as a way to make a little bit more money, right? Um and that doesn't just go for the creators, right? So that goes for the people printing the stuff, that goes for the people manufacturing the blanks, that goes for the shippers. Every single person is trying to exploit and the market as much as possible and make a factory of themselves. So, and it's really easy to see this from a screen printing perspective because if you know anything about screen printing, it is you are physically making a factory of yourself. So it was very easy for me to uh see this perspective, right? Because when you screen print for long enough, when you're doing 1,000 shirts in a day, when you're doing 2,000 tote bags in a week, not for a smaller shop, um you literally you factorize yourself. You become a factory. It's the same thing for putting them all in bags, labeling all of them, getting all of the shipping information. For a long time, I know for a fact that and even now, depending on the size of your channel, um, early YouTubers would they would just go to a manufacturer, the manufacturer would send them all these shirts, and then they would bag and ship them and everything, maybe through a very early version of Shopify. But it's completely different in today's market because every single printing producer and every single point of the market has realized that they can um a lot more people have entered the market first off. So there is this influx of people into the production market, the screen printing market, the shipping market, the logistics market, the blanks manufacturing market. All of the people along the chain realized that there was money to be made because of these YouTubers and stuff, right? So, um, and a lot of these people were the same people that were making sports T-shirts. A lot of these people were the same people that were making uh I'm fucking totally blanking. Like, race car t-shirts and jerseys and just all, a lot of the reasons that you would have screen printing in the first place. A lot of these people realized that not only so for screen printers there are a lot of markets for us to choose from, right? So small businesses, maybe larger businesses, churches, schools, sports teams, stuff like that. Anybody that would need to advertise themselves, maybe through an apparel choice, we have options as well. And so basically, what happened was around when YouTubers realized that merch was actually a really good revenue stream for themselves, the producers themselves also smelled blood in the water, and now there is like 1,000 people doing everything along the entire chain of production. So you as a YouTuber, maybe so like in early YouTube, you would have to go to a manufacturer, you'd have to ship everything out yourself, you'd maybe have to give them a design, like that you really worked hard on, in order to really connect with your audience, right? The people that would 100% buy it, right? So, but then nowadays, what has happened is there's so many people all along this chain of production. Is you as a YouTuber, let's say you have a pretty like medium size audience, maybe you have 10,000 to 100,000 subscribers, right? You can pretty reliably sell merch just by going and paying someone to make you a design based off your channel. And then you can take that design and you can send it to somebody who will put it in the correct format for a screen printer. They'll even do like different versions and color separate and everything so that you can be the best buddy of your screen printer ever. So that when you go to the screen printer, you can just pay him, you give him the raw files, you're not paying any extra fees for the formatting of it. He prints those away, you just pay blanks and then labor, you know. Uh you have maybe like two conversations with the screen printer. With the smaller shops, you'll actually go in, have a meeting with them, maybe you'll actually get to see some of the blanks. But for the bigger shops, that's through email. Maybe they'll send you some samples through the mail. um it can be a bit of a longer process depending on how large your order is, and then depending on the manufacturing capabilities of the producer that you're going with, right? So there's um and then you give them the design, you give them the raw files, you choose a couple of blanks, maybe you choose a different couple of colorways, right? So you don't see all of those colorways, you just see the base blanks, and then you go, okay, well, what about this in blue? You don't even consider the fact that the blue dye like maybe changes the feel of the shirt, which that happens a lot. Especially with a lot of these newer blank manufacturers, they do all kinds of weird shit to these shirts and they change the feel of it quite a bit, in my opinion. Um, so when you then choose all of those colorways, you pay the people. Uh, I mean, a lot of these people even do like payment plans and shit. Like you might pay them a good portion of it at the beginning, and then you pay a little bit of it in the middle as they're producing it, and then at the end after you've like started making profit, right? So it kind of just depends on what producer you're going with, but you end the experience, and then you can either hire another person to ship them, or a lot of screen printers and stuff will actually do shipping and sending themselves. A lot of them will just be like, no, come pick up your boxes of shirts and you deal with it. But I mean, at least like medium to large uh screen printers will ship and send them for you, right? I even worked for a shop that completely handled one creator's online shop and all of its shipping uh, logistical things. And so you end the day with, I email a couple of people, I pay a bunch of people, and then suddenly I have merch that is in people's hands. And you've maybe seen like a couple of samples of it. Maybe you got some of it so that you can have a photo shoot with it, but that's really it. The disconnection of creators and influencers from their own merch is what has created this has sort of created this sort of market of disconnection. It's just another revenue stream. It's just another way for me to make money. You don't even consider the fact that there are a bunch of your fans buying this stuff and actually living with it, experiencing it. But yeah, we'll go through a bunch of things. Um, I'm gonna try to make this a bit of a shorter video, mainly just because it is a bit of a simple topic to explain. But I do want to at least get it out there because it's something I'm passionate about. You know, I went to college for it, so we'll get right into it. Hold on, I'm gonna pull my chair over. You should see how I'm sitting right now. It's fucking crazy. Um, so we'll start off, Dude Perfect. Or I got a bunch here. I'm trying to remember what I have. We'll start with this guy. So I mean I okay. I I have no problem with this guy. Now you have to understand I have no problem with any of these people. These people are just doing what capitalism deems them to do. You know, a lot of this is just people going upon the path of least resistance, right? So it's it's easy for people to see this as just another revenue stream because it's convenient to do it that way, right? If you disconnect from it, you can if something is fucked up, you know, you can be like, you know, that's not on me, you know, I just had a bad manufacturer, I had a bad shipper or whatever the problem may be, right? So I'm laughing because this is kind of a perfect example. I'm laughing because it's kind of a perfect example of what I'm talking about, right? Like he most likely he maybe no, he paid somebody to draw this. And then it's classic going to a manufacturer, going to a screen printer and being like, "Hey, he probably he probably even went onto just like a website somewhere and just put in this image, saw a bunch of examples of merch that he would like to sell that he thought was at least like cool looking, like worked well with the image, even though for something like this it doesn't work. Like look at that. Like I'm sorry, but look at this. I don't the words are the words are cut off and shit. And then this is the it's a pint glass? You know what I mean? So like you go into a manufacturer or you go online and you email and talk to a manufacturer and they give you this whole list of like things that like blanks that they have that they can just put any image on. It's a blank canvas. That's why it's called a blank. Um and you can just sort of go through and choose like, oh, I want this and this and this and this and this, and it's just sort of you're just sort of shopping and you end up getting like I'm sorry man, but this is Amazon bullshit. And you know, I've seen a bunch of his videos. I think he's a nice guy, but this is just so low effort. Black t-shirts, white t-shirts with a I'm assuming that this image is gonna be heat pressed on here. I don't imagine even yeah, for 25.99, I don't imagine that this shirt is gonna show up and it's gonna be screen printed. Maybe it'll be digitally printed. Maybe it'll be digitally printed if it's such a large manufacturer that they're doing shit like this, you know. Um, yeah, I'm assuming that this stuff is gonna end up being digitally printed. Now, if you don't know what digital printing is, so there's what I do, screen printing. It's where you take an image, you separate all of the colors in the image, and then you put all of the colors onto screens. You take negatives of the each color and you burn them into like a mesh screen using like photosensitive liquid, and then you wash it out. You have a perfect stencil of the exact color that you want for that image. You line them all, each screen up, depending on how many colors you have. You line them all up so they're all perfectly aligned, and it at the end of it, it looks like one cohesive image when you actually put ink on the screen and squeegee it through. Depending on the offset, maybe it's thicker, maybe it's a thin layer. There's a lot of different ways to do it. It really is an art, in my opinion. You can have these big machines that rotate the screens for you, or you can just have this big metal fucking thing on a wheel with a bunch of bearings, and you can just sort of like very easily turn it. But it depends on how large or small your shop is, right? Um, for digital printing, it's literally I'll show you. I want to see if I'll look one up here. They're these genuinely they're these huge they're these giant fucking printer looking things, and you put a t-shirt on it and it digitally prints the t-shirt, the whatever image on there. And while you might be thinking to yourself, "Oh, why isn't every shirt made this way? This seems like the easiest way to do it." It's not very fast. You'd need maybe something like this where you're doing like two at a time, and then you're only doing two at a time. Whereas with screen printing, you can do 9, 12 shirts all at once, and then boom, 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 you got 9 shirts. Even though the setup and the takedown might take a lot longer, it's better, it's higher quality, the feel is nicer. um and this direct to garment stuff, like, it's well known for washing away after a while. It's just really not the best quality in terms of a print, right? So, and again, a lot of these are only doing one shirt at a time. You have to sit there, you have to lay it down very flat and nice. You can see right there, there's this frame you have to put around it. You have to take that off and put it on. That takes effort. When you're doing hundreds of shirts, you have to take that little bit of effort into account, right? So, and especially for these bigger YouTubers, you have to take thousands of that movement into account, right? So, yeah, and then what's the point I'm making? You can tell that uh, where is it? Where'd it go? I just had it. Yeah, right there. But for a channel that's maybe only gonna sell, and that's the thing, right? When you have a myriad, so many products, he has 3 pages of products. When you have so many of these things, it's a lot easier to uh make the choice of like, okay, well, we'll just DTG's this shirt. We'll just throw this on there because this is a kids one. This one right here. This one's an adult one. How many people are specifically going to buy the kids version of this shirt? How many people are going to buy specifically this shirt out of all of the shirts that there are, right? And then this is just a different fit of the same shirt. How many people are going to buy specifically this shirt? And it's the same thing with they have them in all different colors. You know what I mean? You can just sort of throw whatever shirt onto the printer, print that bitch out, and then put it right in the box, right? So, but then you have I'm sorry, man, but it's really fucking lazy. He put in like 5, 6 images and then a couple of text t-shirts and then just put it on any color that you could imagine, kids and adult sizes. It's really just like this is the laziest example. Like this is exactly like this is bottom of the rung in terms of having relationship with merch. He doesn't have any relationship with this merch. He maybe has some relationship with the images that he put in there, but most likely he paid for that as well and doesn't really have much connection to the images either. He just sees it as another revenue stream, which let's be honest, let me put this big caveat on there. He puts all of this stuff out there and he raises this money for the specific purpose of, uh getting more money for his ranch. He doesn't have just greed in his heart, and I don't believe that. He takes care of all these animals, and I don't believe he just has greed in his heart. I think he's just looking for more ways to add revenue streams to his ranch, but that's the issue. The profit motive is the issue, and that's what we have to continue to um recognize, right? So go through. Okay, and then yeah. So this is Mark Ass Brownlee. Yeah, and you gotta understand is the only difference between what the other guy does, what I just showed, the ranch guy, and what somebody like Marcus Brownlee does is he works with specifically a manufacturer, right? So I don't actually think, and this is just speculation, I don't think that he's working with just a screen printing company. I think he's working with a manufacturer, right? So he has pillows, he has collars, he has wristbands, right? So maybe I know for a fact that Mr. Brownlee has been doing YouTube for a very very long time. So he has had a lot more time to think about and analyze what his audience base will buy, what they think looks good, and then also what he himself thinks looks good, and ooh, what he himself thinks is a good product, right? So like this color picker sticker pack, I think that's pretty cute. I think that's a pretty cute idea. I think that's a very original idea. But then you have the hoodie that he always wears, right? And then you have that while I bet you any amount of money, he maybe had a mock up of it himself. I, man, $65. Yeah. Yeah. I believe that. It seems to be constructed well, but it's constructed how every hoodie is, and that's ribbed. wristbands, pockets with the lip, no closing, I don't think. Yeah, no closing. These very basic stitched on the end strings, and I bet you anything that it's like single stitched somewhere along the back of the hood so that the string stays in. But if one of these strings gets stuck in there, there's no chance you're gonna be able to fix it or get it out or whatever. Maybe you don't like the strings. I know a lot of people like to just fully take out the strings, so that might not be an option. A lot of these manufacturers will do that. And I'm not necessarily saying that this is like that this is bad product design. I'm not even necessarily saying that he doesn't care. I actually think in this instance he cares a lot more than the other guy. You know, I think that while Marquez does see this as just another revenue stream for sure, he does take a little bit more time and effort to think about what it is his audience wants, right? So, and that's a big point of contention for me is does the YouTuber, the influencer care about the endpoint experience? Is he thinking about what the customer is going to get and how they are going to live with that product? So like stuff like this, the windbreaker, you know, this is stuff that you don't even necessarily um think of as like or even is overtly merch, right? So it does hold that, it does take that risk uh to try to sell to the people who um might buy it, but only if it looks good outside of the fact that it's merch, right? So this is 100% something like this would be something you're selling to people who 100% will buy your stuff. But then there's something like this where it's very like you don't even see the logo right there. At least on my screen, it's not super apparent, but on the stream, it's probably a lot more apparent. But then you have the windbreaker, you have dog collars, dog leashes, you have you know, little wristbands, which, you know, you could probably, especially for the accessories and stuff, are famously a lot higher selling products. So he has thought a lot more about his market and his audience and what his audience would want, but it's definitely still just manu what merch slop. It's manufacturer slop, right? It's the producers of these are also trying to make as much money as possible. This print is insanely shiny. I hate it. I'm sorry, man. I hate that. I can tell that this windbreaker is insanely thin, and I know what you're thinking. And the windbreakers are supposed to be a little thin. They're not supposed to be this thin. I can, dude, I can tell. Yeah, lightweight. Holy shit. Yeah, and then I'd need to. I know for a fact that a lot of these more unique pieces of merch usually have some sort of like channel tie-in. You know, like I'm sure he has a reason for why this studio in their final. The fuck? So it's just supposed to like represent the scattered desktop of an editor. Hidden Easter eggs? better materials, purposeful design, better materials, thoughtful details. This is something that any manufacturer offers. They usually will actually go to a different company. The screen printers and stuff, the manufacturer or whatever, will actually go to a different company and get these custom little tags. They're made in like a weaving pattern thing. I don't actually know much about that, but they're pretty cool. But yeah, then they just sew them on. It's pretty easy. I mean, the manufacturers I worked for definitely offered this shit. Um, so I'm not super sure about what they means by every detail counts. I mean, I definitely like the print quality. It seems to be a really, really good print quality. It doesn't seem to be too thick. All the colors are really vibrant. All the lines are really sharp. And just based on looking at the weave, yeah, see, like for a lot of and I'll point this out. I'll point this out. This is a really important part of this. Look at the way that the ink sits on the shirt. Very thin. It's a very thin layer. For Plastisol ink, this is very thin. A lot of people will do coat after coat after coat till it becomes fucking shiny. And it just sits like plastic on top of the ink, on top of the shirt. And it completely changes just like how the shirt feels. And I hate it. It's disgusting. Um, Holy shit, it's getting fucking hot in here. Hold on. Hold on. There we go. Watch this bit. This whole fucking bitch is about to start shaking. The print quality is really good. I think that Marquez actually does think about the end user's experience, but at the same time, again, it is just it's manufacturer slop. There is a difference between merch slop, somebody like this, and manufacturer slop. And we'll be seeing a lot of manufacturer slop, mainly because a lot of the bigger YouTubers engage in manufacturer slopping, just slopping all over that shit. But yeah, I mean, this was really just I just wanted to get into like the difference, right? So there's a bunch of different examples. Autofocus, V10, shutter speed. Oh, like it's like a car. Shutter speed. Okay. What reverb is in a waveform? It's pretty nice. I mean, it's kind of just reminiscent of one of the most famous t-shirt designs ever created. Um, I just looking at it, I don't even think I need to tell you what fucking t-shirt I'm talking about. It's one of the most famous t-shirt designs ever fucking created. Um, that is a really that seems like a lot thicker of a print. That's a thicker print. This does seem like a lot heavier of a shirt. %100% cotton, seamless body. So it's a tube. Okay. So it's a tube t-shirt. There's no seams on the side, which is a better design for t-shirts in manufacturing. I don't see anything about its weight. I see. But again, every detail counts. I mean, it's again, they just print it all on one tag and then they sew it right here. That's a thing that anybody offers. You can probably go here. I'll even go on to some random. Let me see. Look, it's even literally the same like material because they all print. Well, I think they all weave in the same fucking way. Oh my god. Oh my god. This shit is bad. Yeah, and then obviously any manufacturer will also be interested in doing sports teams, so they'd also obviously fucking be able to make something like this. You know, like yes, there's some creativity on the part of any creator that sells merch. But man, the disconnect of it is really just what disgusts me. And that's why you get so many people with god awful merch, like shit that you would never want to be seen in public. Not this stuff. I actually don't mind this stuff. I mean, you also do you sell a lot of this basic shit and people will buy it. Obviously it's also a representation of your own brand, right? So like if you have a lot more dedicated fans who will buy that stuff. It shows like good favor. It shows you're doing well. Like what the fuck is this? Oh my god. The definition of merch slop. Just slap your logo on goddamn anything. Beast. There it is. Right there. Hold on. This is what I'm fucking talking about. Look at that. Look at that right there. What does that look like? Every detail counts. Every detail counts. Every detail counts. The fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here, man. We put so much time and effort. I just don't like being bullshitted to. I just don't like being fucking bullshitted to. We spent so much time thinking about the details. You paid somebody to think about the details. I'm sorry, man. It pisses me off. What the fuck is this shit? Fuck is this? There you go. Everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's shit is gonna look the same on some level or another because it's convenient. It's all fucking convenient, you know? It just pisses me off. I don't want to keep exploring this, but I think for right now, I'm just gonna get some food. I'm hungry. But, I'll probably come back on sometime later. But yeah. This is just sort of an intro to what I want to talk about in terms of just like manufacturing and the enshittification of it. What's this right here? What's that right there? What's that right there? I bet you, yep, he'll zoom in on it like it's a feature, yep. Except this one isn't even double-sided, this one's just on one side. But yeah, no, I'll come back to this later. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Peace.